PST. So I will get started. Welcome everyone to Women in Tech's third webinar session. We have been very fortunate to have such wonderful power groups of women so far, which makes me super excited to introduce the next set of inspirational leaders for today's I Am a Woman session. Before we get started, I'd like to briefly introduce myself. I am Astrid, a client success manager at Born, a tech Mahindra company, and I will be presenting today's panelists and host. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please submit them in the chat room and we'll try to respond to as many of your questions as possible. Alrighty, our first panelist is Andrea Austin. Andrea has been building high-performance, customer-focused teams that capture sustainable growth for over 20 years. At Nokia, Andrea leads the North America software business, managing over 1 billion euros in sales. Andrea started her career in technology at IBM. She was with PeopleSoft for 7 years and has been leading sales and services team at software and solution providers in the Silicon Valley, including Symphony Technology Group, Vitra Technology, Digital Thinking, and Nuance Communications. She was recognized in 2016 as a leading sales mentor by Women in Sales North America. In 2017, she was named as one of the top 50 women in revenue you should know. And in 2018, she was listed as one of the top 35 influential women in sales. She is also the co-author of Align to Achieve, a book about sales and marketing alignment before alignment was a hot topic. And lastly, Andrea is a founding member and active board member of Women in Revenue, founded in 2018. Welcome, Andrea. So nice to have you.
Very glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Our second panelist is Katie Nittler. Currently on sabbatical, Kately has been a member of the leadership team of Nokia Software since 2018, supporting the ongoing transformation of the business by building a world-class alliances ecosystem. Katie has significant experience building and driving partner alliance relationships and partner ecosystems by engaging partners, customers, and employees to deliver innovation, increased revenue, and company value. Some of her prior experience includes working in multinational tech companies like HP, PeopleSoft, and Oracle, as well as a number of early-stage companies. Lastly, she also served as COO for Astia, a not-for-profit focused on developing women entrepreneurs and leaders. Welcome, Katie. Thank you for joining.
Looking forward to it.
Wonderful. And our third and last panelist is Vinita Venkatesh. Vinita is a VP of Product Marketing, most recently at Mia Systems. She brings nearly 15 years of domain product marketing, product management, and product strategy expertise from well-known brands including Workday, Rubrik, and Replicon. This year, she was listed in the Silicon Valley Business Journal's Women of Influence. Prior to her career in tech, Vinita worked in the financial services industry for several years as a structured credit derivatives trader and structurer. Vinita has a Bachelor in Mechanical Engineering, Economics, and History from Columbia University and a Master's in Management Science and Engineering from Stanford University. Andrea, Katie, and Vinita, we're so honored to have you on today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. Vinita, welcome as well. I'm sorry I didn't mention that before, but you are very welcome to be here. We are so happy to have you. And before we start this call, I'd also like to introduce our hosts, Debbie Menin and Sumit Grover. Debbie is the VP of Tech Mahindra running the media and entertainment business. Formerly, she was the EVP of the Advanced Imaging Society, which is the entertainment industry organization that represents emerging technologies for content creation. During that time, she helped run a Women in Tech's award ceremony, honoring 13 distinguished women in entertainment, which is where her passion originated from for this subject. She is an entertainment and media professional with a background focusing on running entertainment strategies, ad tech, martech solutions, and advertising sales management positions. Debbie has also held high-level positions at companies such as Nexstar, Media General, Oath, Yahoo, AOL, MTV Networks, Condé Nast, and Variety. Our other host, Sumit, is responsible for the growth of Tech Mahindra's cable, media, and entertainment business in Americas. In addition, Sumit is also responsible for few top strategic global accounts growth as a special charter for the company. After a successful stint of jumpstarting CME business in Japan, for which he was based in Tokyo, Sumit has relocated back to the US and currently lives with his family in Bedminster, New Jersey. And on this note, Sumit, the stage is yours.
Super. Thank you. Thank you, Astrid, for that great introduction and setting the stage. And hey, welcome to New Jersey. We're glad to have you here, Astrid.
Thank you.
Let me say this. You are a role model and inspiration yourself. How immaculately you juggle your work, your personal life, move to a new place, run a webinar literally in middle of the move and make it look like a breeze. Take a bow, Astrid. We're so proud of you.
Thank
Good
you.
day, everyone. Hope you and all yours at home and work are safe and healthy. I'm Sumit, your host, and in case you did not notice the 5G, IT, and ER in the name, look again. Please do call us for any 5G technology or engineering needs you may have. It gives me a great pleasure, everybody, and a deep sense of honor to host such a special and powerful panel today on our show. From initiatives like Nanhi Kali, empowering the girl child through education, to a flagship career development program where stars are identified, we call it Female Achievers in Making, FAME, the inspiring women have always been just around the corner for us at Tech Mahindra. I'm particularly proud to share yet another recent accolade that got awarded to Tech Mahindra for being one of the top best workplaces for women by the Great Place to Work Institute. I feel privileged to welcome all of you to the third episode of our series, directed and produced by our most exciting business at Tech Mahindra, the cable media and entertainment business, where we offer experience, technology, and engineering solutions from glass to glass through innovation, people, products, platforms, and possibilities. I promise this was the last piece of commercial advertisement in this event today. And now, let's use today to celebrate the wins women have achieved and to look forward to how unstoppable they are. We are honored to have three distinguished guests who will provide their insights on a number of topics that are most relevant in today's world. I wish I could play the Helen Reddy's famous song, I Am Woman, before introducing our esteemed panelists. But I'm sure this conversation will inspire you as much as the song would, as they share their own personal and powerful experiences covering many topics, including being strong and invincible to having a purpose-driven life. From balanced to being exceptional. Here's to the women who forged a path, mentored others, and created a voice for those who did not have a platform. Let's kick it off with none other than our very own Debbie Menin.
Hello, I'm sorry to say I'm not on video, but I am here in spirit today. The only thing is that you can't see my emotional expression in my face, but hopefully you'll hear it in my voice. After our last Women in Tech session, that night, I watched a movie called I Am Woman. It's about the famous singer Helen Reddy's life, and no surprise, I became utterly inspired by the lyrics. I've heard them my whole life, but all of a sudden they had a new meaning. Before we start today, we should pay tribute to Helen Reddy by reading a few of those lyrics. For those of you who don't know, unfortunately, she just passed away only 2 weeks ago. So here we go. Oh yes, I am wise, but it's wisdom born of pain. Yes, I've paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong. I am invincible. I am woman. You can bend but never break me, because it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal. And I come back even stronger, not a novice any longer, because you've deepened the conviction in my soul. If you haven't heard that song lately, I just would suggest you Google it because it is so inspiring. I'm moving right into the interview today. And Katie, imagine yourself standing in front of thousands of women, just like Helen Reddy did. As a singer, you performed the song, I Am Woman with conviction at the 1989 Mobilize for Women's Lives rally in DC. Tell us, how did that make you feel?
Oh my goodness, I would have been terrified, but for sure, given the opportunity, I would have taken it. You know, absolutely, I would have lent in. So with our ongoing journey to sort of true equality, I've always felt it was my duty to be a role model, to coach, mentor, and show other women how I've learned to navigate and thrive in business. I can do it. If I can do it, so can you. So interestingly, in 89, I was actually working for a small software company in England. And my goal and my absolute dream was to work for Hewlett Packard. So I took on more responsibility at work. I went to night school for 3 years, so my academics would never get in my way. And it worked. I got into HP. The key here, though, it was very intentional. It was something I wanted to do, I believed I could do, and really focused on it. And Hewlett Packard was a fantastic company to work for. Very much reinforced values that I've held close now through my whole life. The importance and respect for individual, value of leadership, integrity, the power of network, power of teamwork, and the need for adaptability. But also was my first exposure to real meritocracy. So I'm very much looking forward to today's conversation because I think we still have a long way to go.
Katie, when we talked last, you said a few things to me that resonated around the meaning of I am woman. Can you elaborate?
I think the key is, being a woman, I feel I'm very complex. I'm strong. I have many roles personally and professionally. And I think that all of that gives us a stronger platform to be able to manage in life and manage in business. So definitely resonated with Helen's words.
That's wonderful. I think today, by the end of this, we will all define what I am woman is in 2020. According to Wikipedia, though, if you actually look at how they define the personality traits, it includes gentleness, empathy, humility, and sensitivity. And of course, it's influenced by the variety of social and cultural factors. So Andrea, would you agree with that?
I certainly agree with components of it, but I do think with Wikipedia, I think it's something we can all edit. So maybe someone could take an action here and edit it, because I think what's missing is courage, bravery, resilience. I think those are traits that women have, and they're definitely female personality traits that I think we should be including there. So I think mostly agree, but I think I would add those minor points.
Agree, absolutely. How would you define what I am woman means to you? And maybe in your answer, can you tell us why you like wearing dresses?
Certainly. So I am woman to me means what I like to say is FIO, right? I kind of grew up in this FIO environment, which is figure it out, right? I actively leverage my curiosity, the compassion that I have, and frankly, my sensitivity to relate to not just my customers, but my employees, my colleagues. I tap into my personal bravery reserves to try to inspire my teams to have the courage to do what in some instances they think is impossible. I've had this adage for many, many years that the challenges that we face in business and in life, in a personal situation, are difficult because if they were easy, they would have been solved. Mm-hmm. And so I think someone's going to figure those out, and I don't know why it can't be us. So FIO is definitely a mantra that I definitely try to aspire to, which is just figure it out.
Great. All right. Wait, Benita, let's not only talk about greatness, but rather how do we build to greatness, which is even more important. As the song says, you can bend but never break me, because it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal, and I come back even stronger. Do you have any experiences you'd like to share in this area?
Oh, there are so many. I think what helps build greatness more than anything else is putting ourselves in a spot to, as Andrea said, figure it out, but putting ourselves in a spot of vulnerability, of uncomfortableness, because we can solve those problems. And they haven't been yet solved. And there's plenty of experiences that have bent me but not broken me. Being in New York City on 9/11 was a traumatic experience, but it has also given me the strength to say, hey, look, with something so traumatic happening in our area, we can come over that. I have had several losses in my immediate family very suddenly. And it's really how we deal with those uncertainties that come at us. Take COVID, for example. I have 3 kids at home, and suddenly becoming a school teacher, a full-time mom, and working. My husband also works. It's like it's the uncertainty that comes at us, and how we deal with it is what makes us great.
Well, thank you for that. We're going to talk about a couple of words that were in the lyrics, strong and invincible. And Andrea, when I asked you about being strong and invincible on the phone the other day, you said you were both. And you also mentioned imposter syndrome. What does that mean? And does it have anything to do with the princess life? And by the way, I've been watching The Crown lately, and Princess she thought she had princess life, and honestly, she hasn't. But go ahead.
Right, exactly. So I would invincible a little bit. I actually don't think I'm invincible, but I do think I'm brave, right? And so I think being brave means you have to tackle those things that are overwhelming and daunting. And I think women especially deal with the imposter syndrome, right? It's I think men do as well, but I think men are taught from the time they're boys to be brave and have courage and face their fears and be up front. I think girls need to be taught the same, and I think it's incumbent on us as this generation to teach the next generation and the next generation to do the same, and we'll continue to make progress, right? I think the reality is that women face the imposter syndrome, which is the sense that they don't belong at the table. And I think as the great RBG said, women deserve to be at every room decisions are made. And I think we need to put the imposter syndrome to rest. It's up to all of us to do that. We deserve to be at that table. We've earned the right to do that. I think the princess life is that the fantasy, right? All the rom-coms that are out there. My favorite movie still to this day is Pride and Prejudice, right? I'm looking for that perfect Mr. Darcy. And I think the reality is we have to live this life and make this the princess life. So as many people who know me, I carry a crown in my car so that I can put it on anytime I need to. Even at my age, I still believe that this is my princess life.
I love that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Let's quote her. Anita, you mentioned a minute ago that you've had some great losses in your personal life with your family. And I know that's heartbreaking to hear that. But you said it literally makes you question everything. So let's go back to the context here about being strong. How did strength come about during these heart-stopping moments when grief is beyond belief? And when you answer this question, think a little bit about advice that you could give others to help them work through their pain as well. Perhaps you have the magic potion?
Well, so for context, I lost my brother very suddenly 11 years ago in a motorcycle accident. Literally talking to him 1 minute and 10 minutes later, it was there. And my dad very recently, just a year and a half ago, all of a sudden very healthy, but 1 minute there and literally 10 minutes later, not there anymore. And it's very sudden, very heartbreaking. But as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, it's really how we deal with those situations that builds our strength. And strength doesn't mean like you can't show your grief, you can't show your pain, you can't show your almost brokenness. It means showing it and helping yourself and helping others overcome it. And one of the things that's really helped me, and I would give this advice to everybody else too, and my mom really honestly is the one that gave me this advice, so I can't take credit for it, but it's being strong for other people helps you be strong for yourself. And it's okay to talk about it, because guess what? As other people share their grief and you can help be their strength, it helps make you stronger. So yeah, accept your pain and help yourself as well as others get through their pain. And you can get through it, because guess what? We are strong. There is inner strength. As Andrea said, some of those pieces that are missing, the bravery, the courage, that's inherent within women. And we have to bring those qualities out because we can do it.
Thank you for sharing your personal story. I think it's inspiring. And on that note, I'm going to talk to Katie for a minute about that word strong. Now, you told me you thought you were strong, but you said you were not invincible. And I'm going to beg to differ. You beat breast cancer many years ago. I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit about your experience.
Well, yes, of course. And I think it comes back to my comment at the beginning is I do feel all of us, it's our, what we need to be is role models to others. So definitely on a number of occasions, I've intentionally altered my career path. So taken lateral moves to gain more experience or give back for working for a nonprofit, pausing to focus on family or health. And I'll come on to that in a minute. But each experience has given me more expertise and resilience. It's back to that courage that Andrea talked about that really needs to be in Wikipedia for women. But, I still would question the invincibility one, because I think, living our real, true, authentic lives today is really the key. But definitely learning that I had stage 1 breast cancer was the most difficult thing that I'd ever been through, because I had absolutely no control over it. So it burst my bubble. So my and the best way to describe this is I always saw myself as being a strong role model to my child, but I felt that I was then burdening her with that check mark against cancer, which is very often hereditary. But to recover, I quit my job. I focused on myself. And actually, the silver lining is it coincided with Elle going into kindergarten. So it's a number of years ago now. So I was able to volunteer in the classroom. But the real lesson that I've learned with taking time out to focus on myself, my family, my health, was never be afraid to do the right thing for yourself or your family. I knew my career would work out. And if a company has an issue with what you're doing or judges you for it, then it really isn't the right place to be.
I think what Katie just said is something we should all think about. Because sometimes we compromise ourselves. And they always say when you're on an airplane, you need to put the oxygen on yourself first, right?
Right.
Well, thank you for that.
And quickly, Debbie, if I could jump in, I think that advice that Katie gave is so poignant, especially in this year. I for one have taken it. So I've taken some time off of my career right now, and am consulting because it's the right thing for me. It's the right thing for my family to do right now. And it was terribly difficult to make that decision. It was very, very difficult. I am so attached to my work, generally, and that's what I do for myself. But this was also something I needed to do for myself, right? And so
I think in corporate America, there's more understanding about that now than there ever has been. So good for both of you. And by the way, Vanita and Katie know each other quite well. And Katie and Andrea know each other really well. We have friends here on the panel. I'm going to talk a little bit about Ruth Bader Ginsburg now. We really wouldn't be doing this topic justice, I'm sure you would agree, at all, without talking about the late Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Now, bless her soul. For those of you who don't know, Ruth was on the federal branch for 25 years. And in 1993, she became the second woman ever to serve on the United States Supreme Court. Throughout that time, she continued to be a leading voice for gender equality, women's interests, civil rights, and liberties. Surely a legacy that will help women forevermore. We actually talked about a number of her favorite impactful quotes, but Andrea, Vanita, and Katie all decided they wanted to respond to just one of her quotes. And so here it is. Andrea, women belong in all places where decisions are made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. Can you tell me what your first reaction was when you heard the quote? Do you agree? And do you have any experiences to share?
Absolutely. So I completely agree. It's the quote is actually very important to me. I have a T-shirt with it. It's actually foundation.
You should be wearing it.
I should be wearing it. You're right. You're right. I wear it so much I needed to launder it. But it's also, this quote is also really important to an organization that I'm very privileged to have helped found. It's called Women in Revenue. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But I think one thing about this is that women are the exception in business today, right? definitely the exception in technology, definitely the exception in STEM roles. And so I think it's, it's very important that we start to change that, right? And I think it's incumbent on all of us to do that. I do want to make a note, though, that I think diversity cannot be just about more women in the workplace, right? I think it has to be about the balance of women and men. It wouldn't be good if I ran an all woman team either. Right. And so it's just as it's not good if I run an all man team. I think we need to have the different cultures, the different experiences, the different perspectives that each of us bring to the table. And I think this prism that each of us as varied individuals bring, it offers, I think, the best view to our business and the challenges that we have to work through. Go back to that, that statement that I said before of, I think we can solve these really difficult challenges, but it takes all of our unique experiences to do that. And I think, RBG meant that because there are just too few women in those places. And so I think that we are the exception, and I think we have to fix this. I think what is very devastating right now is, I think with this COVID-19 situation that we had, it's shrinking again. If you've not seen the latest study from McKinsey and Lean In organization, it's called Women in the Workplace. It just came out. Please do read it. It's available on the McKinsey site. This pandemic alone is threatening to erase the gains that we've made over the last 6 years. And I think that's just terrible. So I think this is even more on us than it ever has been before, not just because, RBG has passed away, but because of the COVID situation. And I think women pulling themselves out of the workforce. And I applaud you, Vanita, for doing it. And I'm really glad that you're still consulting, because I think it's really important for us to not miss that opportunity to kind of keep propelling our career. And, that we've actually decreased at the C level in women representation. So I think it's just that we're in a very awkward time. And I think we need to not let up on women being in all places where decisions are being made.
I agree fully. I was talking to Sumit last night, and he was telling me that we had a speed dating session with a major motion picture studio yesterday, and we had 3 women, and Sumit was on it. And the person that we were talking to at this corporation said, I cannot tell you how impressed I am that this is the only company that came in with women. And we thought it was profound. All right, Vanita or Andrea, who's next?
Yeah, I mean, I can add to what Andrea was saying. Women are often thought of, I mean, at least for me culturally, women have often traditionally been thought of as somebody's daughter or somebody's wife or somebody's mother. And it's kind of like, why can't we just be me? Like, I am woman. Like, why can't I just be that? I think women are really capable of making rational decisions. I am privileged to have come from a family of very strong women that really were the CEOs of their families. And, we think about women in executive positions. Well, let's turn our families into businesses and we'll be the CEOs of our families. And I think that same attitude can be taken into other businesses as well. And what people don't see is the fact that women are entirely so critical to the decision-making process. And like you said, it's bringing all those diverse perspectives as well. So it's not just about women, but it's about different cultures. It's about different socioeconomic backgrounds and putting them together so that you can achieve the greater good, the greater goal of what you're trying to achieve. And yeah, we're entirely capable, and we need to help make that not the exception. And that's kind of my mantra in life is, I'm taking a break right now, and thank you to, again, Katie, for mentoring me this way. But like, I can take a break now, but that's not going to stop me in my career.
Yeah. Hey, Katie, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things. One is I love the CEO of my family. I have every intention of continuing that role, but having more and more participation in business, because not only do I do a great job, is I enjoy it. It's I think that's something that's really pretty important. But coming back to the quote, I think the reality is we all know it's true. As in, if you think about the CEO in our family lives, of course we need to participate in where all decisions are made. It doesn't mean we make the decisions. We have a voice, we have perspectives, we have experience. But the reality is we know it doesn't happen. And that's where we still we have a lot of work to do. But I think a couple of things we're thinking about this question is very often I think we are part of the issue, and I think we're going to come on and talk about more and more examples of how we can do better. But to do with this question is really don't wait for perfect, and absolutely never be a victim. You know, this sort of, oh, I didn't get this because I'm a woman or
no.
women. You know, it's just, I mean, we have to believe, to Andrea's point, we deserve to be there. And we know we're going to add value. It's not just because we deserve to be there because we're a woman. It's like, so what? Is we deserve to be there because we have experience, perspectives, ideas, that our companies should leverage. And if they don't leverage it and business doesn't leverage it, then they will not succeed in the way that they need to succeed. So our role is to lean in, and with absolute utmost respect, remind your manager to include you. Because sometimes I don't think people are deliberate or divisive. I just don't think they think all the time. And so, our focus is to persuade and actually simply ask for things.
Speaking of that,
Andrea, I'm sure that's going to have triggered a couple of things for you.
Yeah. Well, let's move on with that subject here. Going a little deeper. You and Andrea both work at Nokia, and you have a president, Bhaskar Gordy. He sounds like somebody that leans in to help support women. Do you want to talk a little bit about him, either one of you?
Yeah, well, let me start on that, because I think I've known him, coming on 20 years now. Bhaskar is a role model for men, as he's authentic when it comes to equality. And really what I want to be able to say is he's not doing it because he thinks poor women, we need to have a chance. He believes this is a business imperative and it's the right thing to do. So I want to give you a couple of little stories about Bhaskar. So, I first worked for him 16 years ago after having taken a year off when I had my child, Elle. He approached me 3 months after she was born. And waited 8 months until I was ready to come back to work, because I very intentionally wanted to enjoy that time with my only child. I was also very reluctant to take a job that meant commuting for over 2 hours, with a baby. I mean, it's just, why would I work full time and do that commute? But Bhaskar offered flexibility and choice. So I was able to work remotely from the start. So actually, when COVID hit, it was really immediately for me no big deal, quite frankly, because I'd had that opportunity for a long time. I've now worked for Bhaskar 3 times. He knows how I contribute. He respects my operational abilities, my skills, but also in return, I've learned a lot. I've learned not to be offended when I'm not invited to play golf. Honestly, I don't want to play golf. I'd much rather do something else. And if the boys want to go and play golf, great. So I think part of it is, we all have to learn, what is important and what we really can just not worry about, but to participate back to being in the same room where the decisions are being made. And I know, Andrea, you've been introduced to Bhaskar much later on.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, the topic of women in Nokia was a topic from the first meeting that he and I had. Through some coaching that I had received, I did ask the question very directly. He was very open to it. Didn't at all shy away, wasn't offended, didn't, buck from it. He was just so passionate about the role that women play. And again, not because they're women, but because the perspectives that they offer are so varied from a traditional, male dominated environment. And so I think the fact that he sees that, it meant a lot to me. It was definitely one of the deciding factors for me to come to Nokia. I see it in action every day in our organization, and through his leadership. He doesn't just talk about it. He actually does, as Katie said, he walks the talk. It's more than just words with him. And I think that's very important to me as a female executive in the organization. And I think I think we all feel it as the women in the organization. I think it's valued. He doesn't treat us any differently. So when he's a little abrupt, just like he would be with a man, there's no extra sensitivity. So
I don't take it personally.
Right.
Right. I mean, I'd say the same goes here. You've got Sumit here, who is completely just passionate about this topic and continues pushing us to keep these webinars going on, because I think the support of women is terrific. You know, I want to do a session one time about not just women supporting women, but men supporting women. And I know there's a lot of people that would love to be on that panel.
Yeah, and I just to come back to that. I mean, I've been very fortunate, and I know Andrea has been as well, is that we've worked with very powerful senior men who absolutely understand what we can do to contribute. And you know, back to Andrea's point, it doesn't mean it's easy, but that's okay. You know, I'm absolutely fine having criticism or coaching or whatever you want to see, but to be given the opportunity to do things that are beyond our comfort zone, you know, I think is been fantastic. And on the whole, actually, it's been men throughout my career. But part of it is there's not enough women. So, you know, it's a little bit of an issue that we have to resolve.
We'll get into that topic here in a few minutes.
Exactly.
Move to a purpose-driven life. As Andrea would say, living the dream. When I spoke to Andrea, we were talking a little bit about the 5 love languages, and she mentioned that your love language that you'd like to give is quality time and giving. And obviously that's clearly a part of the purpose that you told me, which was to help other people unlock their potential. It's also no surprise to hear that Andrea has been recognized by many people for her mentorship support. But at the end of the day, what I'd love to know is, does giving make you feel fulfilled? And how do you balance between life purpose and the goal at your job?
Yeah, so definitely my number one love language is quality time. It's just really important to me. And I spend a lot of quality time with my friends and with colleagues, and I do a lot of one-on-ones, skip levels, and so on and so forth. But right on the heels of that is gifting, both getting and giving. And I find that I get a lot out of giving back. I'm at the point in my career where, yes, money is very important to me. I like a nice new pair of shoes, but it's really important for me to give back at this juncture. And I think the combination, the quality time and gifts are at the root of my personal interests in cultivating my network and mentoring. I think I get as much out of my mentoring as I hope my mentees get out of it. And I think the drive of that is to be tapped into that next generation, if I can have just a tiny bit of influence on them thinking differently. And, I think, we all have earned our keep through our careers. And I think there's a little bit of sense that in my generation that, well, I had to pay my dues, they need to pay their dues, and they can't advance after they do their job and do a good job. Like, we have to do the extraordinary. Well, just a different generation now. So I think we have to, and that's what I do. I'm mentoring about 6 or 7 people right now. And I love it. I get a lot out of it. I take a priority to it. It's really important to me. So also in the giving back, I did mention before the Women in Revenue. And as I stated, I was very privileged to join these 12 other women to found Women in Revenue, which is a nonprofit organization that is really, our mission is empowering women leaders in sales and marketing. And we're really focused on education and creating diversity and inclusion in the workplace, giving back to women through mentoring programs, opportunities, and frankly, just access to the talent in our organization, and, helping those women move their careers forward, and frankly, having a bit of fun while we're at it. We started off 2 years ago with the 12 of us. We are now over 3,000 members. We've just opened up our first Austin chapter, and we're growing. I frankly think COVID has been a boost for us, because we no longer have to just do events in the Bay Area, so we can do them anywhere. And frankly, I think, it is a free resource. I would highly suggest anyone who's interested to join. It's womeninrevenue.org. There's a lot of assets and communities. We have an open Slack channel where you can post jobs and get advice and see other people's presentations. So it's been really fulfilling for me. I would love to even give more time to it if I didn't have such a very important job. But it's a great organization. And it taps into my gifts and my languages.
Well, thank you. Inspirational. Katie, what drives you? Your life purpose. Also, I guess even more importantly, how do we bottle whatever that is up and sell it and give it to others to help them find you guys.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to respond to Andrea's comments. I love the fact that Women in Revenue is having fun as well. Honestly, I think we have to be careful not to take ourselves too seriously sometimes. And I think that building real relationships with people, men and women, is all part of, how we really are going to succeed. But when I think about my life's purpose, honestly, it's to be authentic. Not to try and be something people think I should be. What you see is what you get. But also to make a positive difference to people's lives. So the phrase "pay it forward" is just such a good mantra for me. Like Andrea, I mentor and coach a number of people. Some of them, like Benita, who I've known now for very, very many years. She was actually an intern for me, Benita, how many years ago? 8, 9 years ago?
10 years ago?
10. Well, we met, yes, 11 years ago. So, and actually just after her brother passed away. So it was quite a poignant time for both of us. And since then, Benita's had 3 children, is now has been a VP in marketing. I mean, amazing growth. And so that point that Andrea said is, us giving back isn't just about who we're giving to. It's actually being able to use the experience we've had again, and say, oh, I would have done this differently, or I might have thought differently, so that pay it forward, being able to really encourage those I lead and coach and managed to support others. It's not to pay it back to me. It's how do you take it forward? My husband says I'm a people collector. And yeah, and it's intentional. I enjoy knowing people. And
Can I be part of your people?
You can be. Well, yeah, I have to keep testing you. No, absolutely, Debbie. But honestly, it's what we can accomplish together. Alliances has been a great career for me. My network's matured and grown, and many of the people I've met through business are now lifelong friends. So, I think sometimes that compartmentalizing our lives is important to keep focus, but also, I think we can't be so black and white,
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Love them. Carpe diem. Seize the day, everybody.
Exactly.
Perfect. Benita, what is it that your parents did to help you find your life's purpose? And what is the one thing that you can give to your kids?
Yeah, so my parents were immigrants. They came here from India, pursuing an education. Well, my dad pursuing an education. My mom then got married, and then married to my dad, and then came here, and then pursued an education as well. And the one thing that I think they taught me without them actually saying these words was have confidence. No matter where you are, you can move forward and you can do something. And, I look at my mom's career trajectory. She changed careers at least 7 times. But throughout that entire period was always a teacher. And not just, a formal relationship to others, but also an informal relationship in so many ways, spiritually, academically, just personally, teaching others. And that showed leadership for me. So that was leadership to me, and that inspiration. And if I put myself in now a mom's shoes, I think about what I can give back to my children. It is that confidence and that growth mindset. There is more to learn, and we can go ahead and solve something, and we can do it while bringing others along. And so I think to Katie's point, and really to Andrea's point as well, like leading by showing and leading by doing is wonderful. It's not just, you're not just telling somebody something, but you're also moving forward with it. And so I would say that confidence and that confident mindset, if I could give a piece of advice, I would say, guess what? You can do it. So go ahead and try.
Awesome. Love it. I'm going to keep going on this subject for a minute with you. You had mentioned that you're from India, but you were from a family of influence, especially with women, where education was really important. You even told me that education was not an option.
Mhm.
That said, I do want to take a minute here to mention that Benita was written up as a woman of influence in the Silicon Valley Business Journal. I think we heard that at the beginning, but she clearly didn't follow the typical traditional path. And I would have to say that I'm sure your ancestors would be very, very proud of you. We have about 10 more minutes here. We've got quite a few more questions to go through. So if we want to kind of quickly go through some of the answers there, is there anything else, Benita, that you wanted to share as far as your journey is concerned? Because I think, going through the process like you did, I think you are an exception. I was just wondering what kind of made you exceptional like that.
I think it's I attribute it to my role models and my mentors and my elders in my family who put education and kind of growth that growth mindset really at the forefront of everything to pursue. But I think that the biggest takeaway there is not to dwell on the past. And so to Katie's point earlier, don't victimize yourself. Don't be a victim. Don't dwell on the past. Move forward and learn from our history, and the mistakes that we make, as we should make mistakes because we're going to learn from them, and use it in a way that's constructive to our future. And I think that's yeah.
Good. I love that. Katie, all right, you talk a lot about your inherent belief that you can make things happen and you can do anything. Helen Reddy. You've also told me that you've had a lot of role models in your life. Where would you say your strength came from?
I think a couple, nature and nurture. So I grew up with a very flamboyant and confident father and 3 brothers who are very much larger than life. And for anyone who's met them, know that. But the nurture was my father's stepmother. So not a relative, but for sure she was my fiercest supporter. She was an officer in the Second World War, which for women at that point was very advanced. And she was a bereavement counselor for people right into her 90s. But she fundamentally believed I could do anything I put my mind to. And largely she's been right. At least I make an effort. And I think a couple of things I've really learned, through her is, the never burn a bridge. I've had great opportunity to work with people, across the globe for many years, and over time also, my brothers continue to be my best friends. We've had 25 weeks of Zoom calls now under our belt. So, I think it's, the people and that, build with confidence of others as well.
Wonderful. Well, Andrea, where did your strength come from? And was it tied to how you're raised? And I remember when we were talking, you had a story you wanted to tell about the Girl Scouts, which we would love to hear. And then also think about kind of any advice you'd want to give somebody that may have grown up without a supportive family like yours.
Yeah. So, I grew up with parents that were not very mature. My parents were quite young when they had us children. I was the eldest of 3. I have 2 younger brothers. My parents were always, you're the eldest, you have a responsibility. So I had to grow up pretty early. I was babysitting my 2-year-old brother when I was 8 years old. So not sure my parents were, the smartest at the time, but they've certainly created a very responsible child. And my parents were and continue to be just awesome parents. They've instilled a lot of the figure it out in me and my brothers. I started selling at a very young age. So I was a Girl Scout, very active, very competitive. So I went to my dad, who ran a restaurant business, and said I wanted to, ask him to set up a table outside of his restaurants. And he said, well, doesn't that take away from the business? Like, why would we do that? And it's not me you need to sell to. It's not me you need to convince. It was not sell to at the time. It's you need to talk to my managers. And I was like, no, Dad, you just tell them to do it. Like you're the boss. And he said, no, you need to go talk to them. So he worked with me to create a pitch. I didn't know it was a pitch at the time, but I went and presented to these managers who, of course, were never going to tell me no. But he was like, what's in it for them? Like, why do they take business out of their own pocket to give it to you. And like, what are the Girl Scouts doing? And how's that good for the environment and the community? And why would they do this? And so it instilled in me that others focused selling very early, right? I was 10 years old. So 10, 11, and 12, I was top regional seller in my district. My poor mom had to deliver all those darn cookies. Yeah. And so, I think with all of that, it's that figure it out. Right. And I think the things that I learned growing up, and I did have a great family structure. I didn't think so. I look back on it now, and it certainly was, as I think about everything else and the options that are out there. But, if I didn't grow up with a supportive family like I had, I think it is still figure it out. Right. It's ask for the help and be vulnerable enough to, ask for help. And, there wasn't formal mentoring and coaching like there is today. It's so funny when I think about that. It didn't exist, but it didn't stop me from asking a key executive to give me some guidance or give me a perspective or let me brainstorm something. But just frankly, push for the opportunity and prove your mettle by just going for it. And learn and be afraid to not fail. We're all going to fail a little bit. Just fail forward, right? Don't repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And it's that bravery, right? The courage.
Fail forward. This is good. All right, we're going to switch subjects really quickly with 5 more minutes. And this is, I think, a really, really important topic. And it's about the elephant in the room, which really has to do with balancing your job and your family, being a mother, and the stigma that could come from you've got children at home crying in the background on a Zoom call. And what if you're pregnant and you've got to go out on maternity leave? And, the other thing that makes me think a lot about is, what I heard is there's an average of a 50% ratio of graduates entering into tech companies that are 50% men, 50% women. But that starts that way, but it falls off. And I'm just wondering if the family has anything to do with the fallout. But if you want to just talk about that subject for 1 or 2 minutes, because we've got to kind of wrap up here pretty soon, but love for you to share your thoughts.
Yeah, so let me start on that. Honestly, I think women contribute to the issue. So, men are proud of their kids and their heroes will leave the office to collect them from school or attend a sport game. We feel judged, but we need to let it go. We know that many women pause their careers for their families. And are the only people truly that can do that, given birthing. But, I've talked about very often about the untapped talent that are women who are afraid to return to work or feel that because they've got children, they can't ask for a promotion. They can't step up. I've always seen that, any experience I've had, whether it's professional or personally, is going to make me stronger and more resilient. And so I think that that's beholden on all of us to really sort of dig in and be proud of who we are and what we can contribute.
Well, thank you, Andrea. I was just wondering if you could take a minute and talk about the fish philosophy. You've been
you bet.
$1 billion piece of business at Nokia. You're probably pretty structured and disciplined, but I'd love to hear what that means to you.
You bet. So I adhere to a concept called the fish philosophy. It was started out of the Seattle fish market, and it was taking something as mundane as selling fish and making it very exciting and very rewarding. And so there are 4 guiding principles to the fish philosophy. You can go look on YouTube. There are many, many things about the fish philosophy, but there are really 4 components to it. It's 1, you control your attitude. Doesn't matter if you just had a really rough customer call or a product is delayed or a deal didn't go the way you wanted it to, you actually control your attitude. That is something that you can control. And I'm a little bit of a control freak, so that's very important to me. Being present, right? And so if you're having a one-on-one with somebody and you're not on video, why? Because the fact is, if you're not on video in this world that we're in right now with COVID, then you're probably on this. Right? You're distracted because the texts are popping up. And so being present, the way I do it is I'm on video all day long. It's a frame of reference for me. So that's a really important thing. And if you're not present in the conversation with an employee or a customer or a colleague, why are you having the meeting at all? Right? I mean, I think we really have to question that. And then one of the principles is make someone's day every day, whether it's a family member or a colleague or a boss. Do you think our senior level executives get accolades, right? That it's like we all think, well, they know they're great. Well, tell them now and then, right? Like make someone's day every day, and it pays. That whole concept, as Katie referenced, paying it forward, and then have fun. Like this is This is a lot of our life, right? This career, and balance is so tricky, right? It can't be work versus personal, because personal is complicated. It's our faith and our health and our family and our friends and our hobby, and then work. That's not balance, right? And so I think we need to find fulfillment and fun in everything that we do, right? If you really think about it, balance is stationary. Life has momentum, or should have momentum. And so you need to take that step to go to the gym, open your bottle, have the lunch with a friend, do something. Just take that step forward, create the progress, right? Create the momentum. And we got to quit being so hard on ourselves about this work-life balance thing, right? Work is one component of our lives. So I think balance is super tricky. I prefer to think of it as just having fulfillment in all the things that I do. So that's this philosophy. And yeah.
Let's expand on that for a second. Vanita, you talk about content switching. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I have 3 kids at home. They're all 6 and under. So you can imagine our household is crazy. For me, tying back to what Andrea and Katie both said. It's having purpose and just doing it. So go and do it with 100% commitment. And I like to say balance is about purpose and presence. And it's about being there and being 100% committed to whatever you're doing in that 1 minute of time, whether it's washing the dishes or doing the laundry or putting together a positioning pitch, whatever it might be, your go-to-market strategy. If you're not there 100%, then why are you there at all? I 100% agree with that, Andrea. And the way I think about balance is it's more about integration, right? So it's not like one or the other. And you think about what a balance is, it's like the 2 sides. It's not about that. It's about actually everything just being in harmony together. Yeah. And I was on the award ceremony for the Women in Influence, and somebody there mentioned about balance being, it's not about balance, it's about integration. It's about everything together. And that really resonated with me, because when everything is together, then it works. And the context switching is the compartmentalization of that. So if you have a meeting first thing in the morning, don't let whatever is happening in that meeting affect you somewhere else, because then you're not 100% present in the second thing that you're doing. And so that's where the context switching plays a big role for me in my life. And that's really, helped me survive COVID, to be honest, because I worked a lot fewer hours, but I was focusing myself on being 100% present in whichever aspect of my life I was in at the time. And so was very productive, turns out.
What Andrea said too about being present. I think in COVID times, we have to change what we do to be successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Katie,
could you talk about how you kind of define gravity in your life?
Yeah, so I think just what I've looked at is things that I'm really proud of in my career, and one of them is really turning around things that people didn't believe could happen. And whether it's a business challenge, it's some family issue, so I've repeatedly changed perception processes and approaches in companies or in life. And so that defying gravity is anything is possible. Don't be pulled back by the past, what we think we can't do, because if you don't try, you just don't know. And so
Well, thank you. We have 2 minutes left here, so I think we're going to close up the panel today, but I do want to say I think we did a great job by redefining how Wikipedia defines the personality traits of women. So thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Astrid, and once again, thank you so much for this riveting panel today.
Thank you so much, Vanita and Katie, for speaking today and answering all of these amazing questions. It's really truly been an honor to have you. I love that I feel stronger after these calls, and this one in particular, since it's touched on a lot of personal experiences. So I'm very grateful that I was able to be a part of this. I also want to thank our host Sumit and moderator Debbie for putting these amazing events together. And lastly, I want to thank the guests for attending. And before I let everyone go, I want to let you know that there will be another session in the Woman in Tech series on October 30th with Janice Kaplan, New York Times bestselling author. So please expect, we'll be sending some more information on the theme and how to sign up as soon as possible. But Andrea, Vanita, and Katie, again, thank you so much for being a part of this today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.